Alrighty, back on the 49 Chevy truck. Rear suspension time. I started this video, but I had some dumb moments with my camera settings. I had a wide angle lens on the camera and I did not have the settings on the camera to work with the wide angle lens. So I'm gonna start this over. Got a bolt-on four link with this kit. We've had a rough week or so with this thing, trying to figure out some poorly designed parts. No instructions, not a lick, not even none offered by the guy that sold Chris this stuff. I feel like I should put a disclaimer up, or I feel like I should give you a heads up. If you go to purchase a 4-link kit off Facebook Marketplace, especially in North Carolina, where the ad looks local, so it looked as though the guy was from Mooresville, North Carolina, even had a 980 area code on the cell phone number. So it appeared that Chris was buying local. Completely not the case. The guy's in Ohio, from the best we could tell, and he just drop ships everything. That's why it was such a scattered out deal with getting all these suspension parts. Like the shock relocator showed up a week after, but it took almost 5 weeks, I think, to get everything. And some stuff came from Easy Air Ride. That was the front. The front parts came from Easy Air Ride. The bag, the compressors, the switches, the lines and all that. So half of the kit was Easy Air Ride, and it was actually, the front stuff is actually for G-body car, which real close to S10 stuff's pretty similar. No real complaint there. The rear, however, came from what looks like an eBay company. Could never find this kit. I looked and looked and finally had to message the guy because I had some concerns. One of the concerns, I'm willing to admit, that was a complete F up on my part. A complete overlook. I just missed it. So I've got this thing kind of torn back apart, so it might be hard to explain. So if you'll look, let's see, if you'll look, it appears that the rear end is back from that bump stop. I don't know if you can tell from over here, but from the side it definitely looks that way. And this rear end is a 4-wheel drive Blazer rear end, so it is wider than the 2-wheel drive rear end. It's also got disc brakes. So someone had to cut the spring perches off and move them out to the width of a stock 49 chassis. Well, so we needed to cut them off and move them back, or cut them off and put other ones on. So these are the ones that I don't know where they came from. I believe Chris got them to put on here, and so that's what I was going to use. And for whatever reason, well, they don't fit the greatest, and they're kind of puny. And this hole also, I didn't like the slack in the hole. So I cleaned up the factory ones. You can see it laying right there. And you may already pick, you may already pick up where I went wrong here. So if you got a spring perch like this, and you see what I'm saying, it looks like the bump. I thought the rear end was 2 inches further back. Well, come to find out, it's not. I thought there was something funky with the length of the arms on this kit, but if you look at that flat piece right there, yeah, that's the bump stop. So the bump actually, it sits like this. So, but I told the man that as soon as I figured it out, I told the man that. I told Chris that. I'm an idiot. I wish that was our only problem. It is not. So what we got here is these are the U-bolts they sent. Okay, that is a tiny 10 bolt. So they want me to use these U-bolts on that rear end. So you're only contacting the very tip top right there. I was told that's acceptable. I'm going to say no, it's not. It's also not a very hefty U-bolt. It's a half 13 thread. And so I thought, okay, let's use the factory S10 U-bolts. Well, as you see, they fit now, but I had to take them to work, and I had to open this up 300 thousandths. So I went 150 this way, 150 that way, and you can see where I ran the end mill in there. I was like, okay, we might be good. Well, we are not good. The reason they use those, try to do this one-handed. The reason they use those chintzy U-bolts is because there's no room here for anything bigger. These are 14 millimeters. There's no room. You can't tighten them up. You can't even put a washer on them. These didn't come with washers. They came with double nutted. So, I mean, honestly, you can see where I've opened that hole up, but that was acceptable to them. I mean, it wouldn't take much and that would come through, you know what I mean? So that's all the room you have, and like I said, you can't add a washer. There was just no room. And then this one is even worse because it is so out of square. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see there's about an 1/8 here. Well, it's flush here, and you can see where I tightened it up and the nut actually pulled material. So that was, and also there was a piece of tubing that came out about that far, and it's laying around here somewhere. Let's see if I can locate it. So this tubing, it goes through. There was no hardware for it, and that's the only place that looked as though the shock would mount. You know, so because your bag mount is on the back side of the axle like this. Well, one, the shocks they sent will not work. Now you might be able to drive out this sleeve and maybe got that bushing on there. I could probably measure that, but not that important. But the top is a through, and then this thing takes T-bar style factory. So could you have knocked out your T-bars or your factory shocks if you had them? Sure. Would they have fit this? I don't know. So I got a call in or a message in to the guy, and he says he's been talking to tech for 2 days now. I really need to get this truck rolling, so I'm going to say I'm skipping tech. I'm going to taking it to the machine shop. So here's my plan. What I'm going to do, because these are some scrap pieces from work. I don't know what's wrong with them. Chamfer's probably too deep. Like a couple of these, somebody didn't flip. So they're junk. I'm going to take a 1-inch end mill. I'm going to drop down in here where it just kisses the inside of this, and we're going to take I think it's 350 thousandths out of this corner over here. And I'm going to drop this 1-inch slug down in there, put a big chamfer on this, put a big chamfer on this, and then I'm going to weld them flush. Also drill this hole out so this 14 millimeter U-bolt will fit through. And that was another issue. We could not find any U-bolts local that had enough thread. I needed another 1/2 inch of thread for this to tighten up. So I had nuts and washers and stuff, tried to stack them up, and I couldn't get this stuff to tighten up flat. And then I was working with loose spring perches, so these will hang through enough to where it'll allow me a spacer, and I can move the U-bolts out this way so I can tighten up the nut here. Then we had a buddy source us another set of U-bolts that ended up not working because of thread length, but I'm going to use them because they have this flange nut. Oh, it looks a little bent, don't it? So hopefully that's all right. But that's my plan. This flange nut kind of fits the 1 inch of that pretty good, and we won't have to worry about a washer. So hopefully that makes sense. But I'll take you to the machine shop with me, and I'll show you what I'm doing. But yeah, that's where we're at. This kit is this is a Chassis Tech kit. The only place I found it is eBay. So, and according to the mini truck forums, Chassis Tech has went by several names. So, and this, it's garbage. Unfortunately, it's expensive garbage, and I also have a couple other concerns about the bags and the upper bag mounts, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Right now, I need to try to put out this fire and come up with some way to make this stuff work, because apparently the seller isn't willing to do anything. So if you made it through that, so let's get this stuff loaded up and head to work.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S. Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away. Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.
All right, I'm gonna, hopefully you can hear me. I'm gonna use the mics in here. It's just naturally loud with all these rotors and junk running, but gonna try to get these slugs fixed up. I'm gonna go 14 millimeters through that hole. Oh no, I'm sorry, 9/16 through the hole. Turn this 1 inch diameter back. The only end mill I could find was a regrind, and it checks 970. So it checks 970, which I'll use that to my advantage. I'll just turn the diameter of this down to 970 and go a 1/4 inch back. That's the thickness of the spring plate, and that'll give us a kind of like a positive stop to push those, we'll call them bushings in and weld them up. Also going to put a real big heavy chamfer on this, which is a big 45. Let's see. We'll use this guy here. We'll probably put I don't know, an 1/8 inch chamfer on it. And I got a big 45 tool, can sink into the plate and put a chamfer on that as well. I guess it's 45. I don't know. It's sharp and it'll cut. So I'll video going through one of these, and then we'll move on to the plates. $970.
And that's all I'm gonna do to it. I'm gonna do these other 7. This one's hot, so I'm gonna set it down. Jump on this and get it knocked out, and I'll show you what I do to the spring plate. All right, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go through that, and it's gonna, at best I remember, I mean, I could do the math again, but I think it's gonna open this up like 325,000, something like that. Well, not even that anymore, because that was based off a 1-inch end mill. So what it's going to do is it's going to offset that hole, and then the U-bolt will now go through that. But that's how it's going to work. That's the plan. I'm going to set you right here. That way when it flies out of the vise, it takes the camera too. Better slow that down, maybe. So it'll come through the bottom though, but it's pretty snug enough to where I can probably just take a hammer. Well, there it goes. It drops right in there. So hopefully that'll work out for us. I hope. All right, let me show you the finished product here, I guess. So we got these things dropped in, welded around. It's a little bit snug, but not really. I mean, you gotta figure the rear end's up here, so. And that also solves our problem with the nut, which this isn't the nut, but you can get a socket in there now, see down through there. So I'm gonna get these things hung on here. Let's pray they work. So I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, let's see if we can get this dang 49 S10 chassis disaster buttoned up today. This video seems like it's went on for an eternity. Apparently the seller of this junk is trying to make it right, and he sent me a screenshot of an invoice where they're sending new lowers. Of course they would send this crap after I spent 3 hours at the machine shop moving holes in and out and making bushings. But I made this work, and it's probably better than what they have, because you can actually put a nut and a washer, or in this case flange nut, on there. He's going back and forth with me saying that since the specs have changed, that, you know, that's why this kit doesn't fit. I'm like, what specs have changed? And when he tried to tell me, I told him the spring perches were moved out on that rear end. They were. I cut them off and moved them back. But to take that out of the equation, look, I've hung a factory uncut 10 bolt back in here. Okay, you know, I even, you know, I told him that I looked at it wrong and thought the wheelbase was changed. That's fine. But either way, it's mocked up. These were, you have to leave these loose to put this lower link bar on, because this is so out of square. It is like going that way. So it's a struggle if you don't leave that loose, put the link bar on, and then tighten the U-bolts. So I'm going to set the pinion angle, check the pinion angle where it's at,
And then I'm gonna take this rear end, put it back under there at that exact same height, and then put the pinion angle at the same degree as it's sitting right there, because I'm guessing it's roughly at right height. Now I still have some concerns about these airbags and these airbag mounts. See, I don't have any idea which one's left or right, and they say they bolt on, but the only place I can see remotely bolting on would be one of those rivets right there. But even so, do you drill a hole? Do you use a hole? Do you know, what do you do? I'm a lost there, but we'll get to that. And the shocks, I'm pretty sure Chris has got a center bar set up coming. They'll actually mount on the back side of the rear end, and they'll tie across here. So probably just go ahead and do away with those. I'm sure the guy's just trying to cover his ass, or I don't know. I'm trying to stay kind of neutral with this, but I have wasted way too much time because of this. So ran over. Let's get this daggum thing together. All right, a little update before I get too far here. The new U-bolts showed up. Chris just dropped those off. They're probably a little closer in fitting, but still doesn't fit like a factory U-bolt. So I got the perches welded on. Let me tell you, the wind is very rough today, and it's not ideal for welding. So blow your gas away. But I got this baby. It is 5 1/2 inches from the outside of the perch to the back of this flange on both sides. I think it comes to 8 1/8 from the inside of the perch to the flange. The only deviation I'm seeing is about 1/4 inch between the face of the rotor and the face of the frame. 1/4 inch side to side. I highly doubt anybody ever noticed that. We are, I think it's 43 1/2 from the face of this tube to the front of this spring with the original spring perch, both sides. So the rear end is in there square. I just marked this, take this off, I'm gonna weld all that up. It's 13 1/2 from the edge of this to the inside edge of this frame, both sides. So that's in the center. I'm gonna weld it along this side and then on the bottom. And then there's another little edge you can't really see, but little edge right there in the front. So get that put on there. I meant to ask him about that shock bar again, and then got to figure out these darn bags. But I'll get back to that. Yep, the rear end is in there. I tried 2 or 3 times to get that broke bolt out of there. We'll deal with it later, drill it out, leave it, whatever, I don't know. But that's where we're at. Truck's almost ready to be put on the trailer and head to Chris's, and he can do plumbing, wiring, motor, transmission, all the fun stuff. Finally got it figured out. I know this video is probably ridiculously long. I like to share the wins and also like to share the nightmares. And sometimes you learn a lot from a nightmare. Definitely learned a lot here. Conversations with that guy this morning about this. He was telling me they're sending those lowers I might have mentioned. But yeah, I'll just leave it there. Let me get this thing cleaned up. Oh, and I'm over here watching Drag Week. Pause that because I didn't know if that would be like some sort of YouTube illegal crap again, you know, like with music in the background. But jump back on this, get this welded up, get these bag mounts figured out. This video is so close to being done. All right, let me close this video out. Probably shouldn't have put the bed on the truck. Just, I guess for visual purposes, to showing you all that has been completed. But we did stick the bed on there. Well, Chris was here, so it's easier to do it with 2 people, just to kind of get an idea. And that's the US Mag Ramblers that I had on the Impala, and they were on my boy's S10. Just threw that on there to kind of see like back spacing and if those spacers he got would be too much, which they in fact would be. It's a little close right there, so probably half of that much spacer. if he would run that wheel configuration. He's currently wheel shopping and trying to figure out what offset and whatnot would work best for him. So let me show you where we're at. So it is, other than bolted together, tightened up, I got this guy is welded in, got the upper bag mounts put in. Now I'm just guessing on the location of those things. Looking back, put studs in the bags and use nuts and maybe scooch those upper mounts that way just a touch more. Simply because that bottom mount is so jacked up and out of square. It has the bag, you see this? It has the bag kind of funky. Yeah, so they both lean in, and I fudged that one to the point where the bolts would come out. Now I may cut that off, I don't know. I really do not like it, but that lower mount right here is so out of square. And then look, I don't think it matters, but the lower bag mount is just like bent. It's not flat at all. That probably has no effect on anything, but come on now, you know. Yeah, but that looks terrible. I hate it. But it's all on there. It functions. Chris got some wheel tubs because the brake caliper actually hits, this jack's all the way up where I would show you. The brake caliper actually hits the bed. So got some mini wheel tubs to put in here. And his shock bar came yesterday. Today's Sunday. So there'll be another video on it as far as work being done here. Here's the wheel tubs. And then also have, I don't know if I've showed it, but that is a smooth firewall. And pardon the mess. And we're going to do the smooth firewall. Probably just going to rivet it in, use seam sealer, because to weld it, well, it's a lot of time and prep, and honestly I think the rivets will look kind of cool. But yeah, that's where we're at. 4-link is in. I'm not thrilled with it. Did the best we could do. Never done it before. Looking back, might have should have done some stuff a little different. And I definitely am not thrilled with this bag mount. So wouldn't be a big deal to cut it back off. I just welded it down the front and back, like right here. You can see it right there. The back lip and that front lip up there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's a good view of that U-bolt plate and how I had to make this junk work and get those U-bolts away from that lower bracket. But yeah, for what it is and what we were working with, it I guess it worked out. But just keep in mind, do not under any circumstance buy anything chassis tech. Just do your homework on who you buy this stuff from, and then see what manufacturers come in their kits, because you know this could have been avoided. But I guess that'll do it. Thanks for watching Left 4 Dead Garage, and we'll see you back here on that or this or one of those El Caminos up there in the field. Got to get going on everything, running behind. Thanks for watching Left 4 Dead Garage. We'll see you later.